Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another video, guys. In today's video, this is going to be another episode of Left 4 Dead 2 What If. And for those of you that are new to this series and are wondering what this is, basically this is a Left 4 Dead version of the Marvel What If series, where we take basically a whole bunch of different concepts from Left 4 Dead, and we flip them on their head and just think about the alternate outcome and what it could have been. And it's a really cool concept. I really get a big kick out of it, and so I wanted to apply it to one of my favorite games, which is Left 4 Dead 2. And for those of you guys that have not seen any of the prior episodes to end up getting kind of the general gist on how these episodes flow, you can always end up checking out them in the description down below. But guys, for today's episode, what I wanted to do is I wanted to ask the question of, what if the Left 4 Dead 2 survivors never left Virgil? I want to discuss all the different possibilities that could have happened if they just decided to stay with him and what that could have meant for the team. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing in today's episode. If you guys end up enjoying today's episode, at the end I would tremendously appreciate if you guys could drop a like, comment, and subscribe to show your guys' support. But yeah guys, let's go on to the next episode of Left 4 Dead 2 What If. So if the Left 4 Dead 2 crew decided to stick with Virgil, the main critical thing that would change is that the parish just would cease to exist in the timeline. There would be no parish, because ever since Swamp Fever, the crew has been with Virgil. They've been with him since Swamp Fever, Hard Rain, and up until the very beginning of the parish, and that's where they eventually part ways. So the parish just does not exist in this story, because if they're supposed to be staying with him in this what-if scenario, the events of the parish never happen. There's no military, there's no wondering about what happens to the crew at the end once they escape off the bridge. That just doesn't exist. So they're basically taking the Left 4 Dead 1 crew's advice, and they're just deciding to say, screw the military, we want to be on our own. And now we're in the situation where it's just the Left 4 Dead 2 crew and Virgil. Now, for those of you that have never heard dialogue from Virgil too much, basically I will kind of give you a general gist of what I'm trying to end up going for here. Is that Virgil, from his dialogue, if you ever listen to it, basically he's a very humble and loving person. He wants to help out the survivors where he can. That's why he actually went out of his way to save the Left 4 Dead 2 crew at the end of Swamp Fever. And he still intends to have this mindset. So I'm thinking that the first thing that would drastically change is that if the Left 4 Dead 2 crew stayed with Virgil, they would try to help other survivors, which would be really cool, because now you would have Virgil plus the Left 4 Dead 2 crew, and with all the knowledge and the skills that Nick, Rochelle, Ellis, and Coach can provide, they would be a great team. You could end up having it where they would basically be going into areas, something like Swamp Fever, something like Hard Rain, or even events like the Parish, and they would basically proceed throughout it, but they would rescue people, and they would even bring them back. Now, albeit, you can't keep everybody forever on Virgil's boat, because it just wouldn't be sustainable, it wouldn't be possible. Unless, that is, that Virgil has a spot that he can park his boat and only go out when need be, such as an island. What if, and I'm adding this to the theory, what if Virgil decides to take up the Left 4 Dead 1 crew's idea? Because, like, let's say that hypothetically word of mouth spread from Left 4 Dead 1's crew to the Left 4 Dead 2 crew, and then they end up giving that info to Virgil, and they all decide to basically live on an island together, but they occasionally can go out to be able to not only pick up supplies, but other survivors. And then eventually they can accumulate more and more people to their group, and they can all have like a gigundo group. They can have a mini civilization, and it can all take place on a little, island out in the middle of nowhere. And they can use the boat, of course, but it would mostly be the island. Now, and not every survivor would be in a benefit in this situation, because unfortunately what ends up happening a lot of the time is that the Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 crews indirectly will kill people because they are, carriers of the green flu. Despite the fact that they're immune, they can end up killing people, and that ends up leading to them turning, which is sucky. That's horrible. They don't want to kill people, so there is that caveat. Now, if the Left 4 Dead 2 crew wanted to, they could try to be, like, very clean and protect themselves and, like, wear hazmat suits, but I feel like that's not only unrealistic, but it also would just be something that I just don't think would happen. Like, they wouldn't bother. It just wouldn't work. I think that the virus would just adapt, and regardless what would happen is that they would still end up turning if they just genuinely were not immune people. And so the Left 4 Dead 2 crew, the only thing they can do is just flip a coin. They have to be like, hey, we're going to try to save you, but we might give you the virus in turn. which is really an interesting trade-off because a lot of the people probably wouldn't know that, and it would just be from the grace of God of whether or not that they lived or died. Now, the Left 4 Dead 2 crew, I feel like would eventually have to catch on. They couldn't just be that stupid that they wouldn't realize that, hey, we're having a 50-50 success rate, we're killing people as much as we're saving them by just genuinely being near them, what's going on? And then they would realize that, hey, we are, you know, asymptomatic, and we're just carrying everything. We're contaminating people. Because if you really think about it, they can't completely avoid sharing food, sharing resources, sharing shelter. There's gonna be cross-contamination, and they might just indirectly kill people no matter what they do. And so, like I said, it's gotta be by the grace of God that they happen to be immune, which, you know, that could realistically happen. There could be a lot more immune people than we may think that there are. But, like I said, it's a 50-50. Now, this could end up making it so that way if word of mouth spreads in a general area, like, let's say they kind of hang out around one general area near their island, like, they only end up going out so far, there could be word of mouth spreading being like, hey, avoid these people, they just kill you. It could be like some sort of weird voodoo curse bad luck thing, where people are like, hey, these people, if you go near them, they kill you. Don't do anything they say, just stay away. And that could realistically happen. That's how legends go around, that's how myths go around. And then you could end up having it where they're looked at as the bad guys, and they're looked at as considered basically the enemy, even though they're people. Which is kind of an interesting thing to think about, because it's not really something that ever would cross your mind unless you happen to be really thinking about it, you know? And so I would say is that the Left 4 Dead 2 crew can make a lot of friends, but they could also make a lot of enemies. You can have people like Virgil, or you might get people like Church Guy. It's like really just like a grace of God thing. So I will say this, is that they should do it if they're going to be in the scenario, because just living with Virgil forever, just by themselves, the 5 of them, could last, but it really isn't sustainable. Because really the way that you grow in a community, the way you would survive is together. It's in strength in numbers. And you need more people to survive. Nick, Coach, Ellis, and Rochelle, and Virgil in this scenario, it wouldn't surprise me if they would live a really, really long time. You know, kind of going under the radar, being only the 5 of them, that could realistically work. But we all know that eventually death catches up to everybody, and that may catch up to them sooner than later because of the fact that they're small numbers. By, for example, looking at the Left 4 Dead 1 crew, and in their case, when Bill died. Because death is not avoidable, death comes for all of us eventually. So I would say is that it'd be best for them to end up having more people rather than not, and getting the people where they can. They could probably sustain, I would like to assume that depending on what type of island that they find, they could find probably enough landmass to fit probably about 24 people. If you really found like a decent sized island, if you really think about it, you could probably end up having 20-ish people. Realistically. Across the food, across the ammo, across the medicine. And you wouldn't need really any more than that, because the whole entire appeal is that you're on an island by yourself. And also, not everyone is going to stay with them. Some people will just part their ways. Kind of like how that eventually the Left 4 Dead 2 crew parted ways with Virgil. Not everyone might want to stay, you know? If you ever played the Walking Dead games by Telltale Games, and some of you may know what I'm about to refer to here, because I have done a walkthrough of that game series on the channel here. But does anybody remember when Kenny from The Walking Dead was obsessed about his boat idea? And how that even in his boat fantasy that you would always have, he would know exactly what to do because how versatile a boat could be. Kenny's boat in that game was able to fit around like just under 12 people, just the boat alone. And keep in mind, it really wasn't that big of a boat. It was just a standard, normal, miniature-sized, going fishing type of boat. But Virgil's got, like, a boat. That man probably has, like, a downstairs cabin area that he chills in, that has a bed, it has, a refrigerator, it has a bathroom, everything. This man's got a pretty decent-sized boat. And it would definitely be livable. And if you had people living on the top half, you could have even more people just living on the boat. Plus, also, you could cycle people in and out for runs. You can have people scavenge more supplies that way. So if you ever have a hard rain scenario again, you're more likely to end up having the ability to make it out and make it out alive and successfully and unharmed. And people fail to realize that how useful people can be in the zombie apocalypse. Now, yes, I do understand that as the zombie apocalypse goes on in most scenarios, it's not really about the zombies anymore. it's about the people, and you will probably end up having a lot of people that you can't trust, people that might want to come with you just to screw with you. They might want to steal your stuff, they might want to kill you, they might want to take over your land. That is a completely realistic possibility, and you might run into those people, and then you end up having people on people fights and basically having a miniature turf war. And I can imagine Virgil, Nick, Coach, Rochelle, and Ellis all having to stand their ground, because the whole entire appeal is to protect not only themselves, but anybody that they would come across. Because the idea is that they're trying to basically be vigilantes, the military for, you know, the people, the military for the people that are still left, the military for the people that need someone to lead. And I mean that in a good way, not the overbearing, horrible military, but the good leader type of, you know, leadership that we need. I feel like out of everybody, if not Nick, Coach for sure, especially Nick though, but I feel like Nick would have a really good filter to figure out when people are lying and when people are bad. And Coach specifically would have a slightly different type of filter, but to the same type of idea or end goal of figuring out who's good people and who is bad people. Because Nick would look for the bad in people, and Coach would look for the good in people. Ellis and Rochelle, of course, would do the exact same thing, but I feel like that from Nick's experience with what it is that he did before the apocalypse, and just Coach being a good leadership figure and having probably the most leadership-like type of position in the group, I feel like that would be the case. Another good analogy I could end up giving is that it's like comparing Coach to the Rick Grimes of the comic books of The Walking Dead, and comparing Nick to the comic book version of Dwight. And for those of you that have watched only the Walking Dead TV show and have not read the comic books and don't understand the reference, basically in the Walking Dead comics, things are different from the TV show, where Dwight ends up living and basically coordinating and basically being the right-hand man of Rick Grimes in the Walking Dead comics, and basically ends up managing the Saviors and ends up handling their things as the replacement to Negan, and makes it so that way the colonies can coexist peacefully. And he ends up basically working with Rick together to try to make sure that everyone is all good and safe. So in conclusion for this massive what if theory, I think that the most likely possibility is that everyone of the group would end up being basically like saviors and vigilantes, and they would just try to go around saving everybody, with the risk of that they would occasionally run into bad and corrupt people, and also that they might kill some people that are not immune along the way. But for the sake of the community, for the sake of any of the survivors that would be left in the area that they're looking for, they could find other people like themselves, like the Left 4 Dead 1 crew, or even Virgil himself, and end up saving many lives. And they can get one step closer to the possibility of being able to have everything go back to normal, hopefully one day. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it here for today's episode of Left 4 Dead 2 What If. I really do hope you guys ended up enjoying today's episode, and once again, if you guys did, please at the very end here drop a like. It is tremendously appreciated, and that way you guys can tell me directly what you guys want to see, because when you leave a like, YouTube's algorithm will be like, hey, everyone likes this, let's recommend it to everyone more. So if you genuinely want to see more of this, YouTube will do it for you if you just simply drop a like. I just thought I would mention it and let you guys know the true emphasis on what the like button does. But yeah, guys, I do truly hope you ended up enjoying. If you would like to financially support the channel as well, I would definitely appreciate if you guys could also check out my Patreon, as always linked down below in all my YouTube video descriptions, or you guys could use supporter creator code BlackNinja797 in all caps in the Fortnite Epic Games item shops, because Epic is my very first sponsor, and they're sponsoring today's video, so shout out to Epic Games. And yes, guys, I hope you ended up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTuber you guys are ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys, and peace out.
Hey meme lords, Jesus here, and you better have enjoyed that video there by the eternal god Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too, and give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!